Alright guys, we are off the homestead today. We are in New Jersey at my uncle's house, and I am going into his garage because we're here today to help him out on one of his toys. So let me show you what we're working on today. Got a 1969 Mustang convertible. My uncle just picked this thing up maybe a couple weeks ago. But this is my uncle's new acquisition, and it's actually in really good shape. The metal is in great shape. The paint is in pretty good shape. I'm not crazy with the paint scheme, the whole domino look, but it is a good car. It's in good shape. So my plan for today, we're going to go through the car. The car has a bad power steering leak and the power steering really doesn't work, and my uncle says it has no brakes. Also, the other day he attempted to start it and it didn't start, so I think it runs, but we'll probably have to mess around with it. But that's planned for today. Let's get started. Alright, got the garage doors open, and we know this thing doesn't have brakes, so apparently these things have different brakes depending on what size the shoes are. So I'm going to take a wheel off and get the drums measured, or get the brake shoes measured, so I can figure out what we're going to buy. Then we're going to make a trip down to the store. Let me get a wheel off. Alright, well first you can see this thing is bleeding like a stuck pig. This thing was in the Civil War and it's still bleeding from the battlefield. Other than that, you can see I got the wheel off. I'm using one of these cheap jacks. Don't use these things, they're not good. But this one's okay for now. I'm going to go get a jack stand while I'm at the store. I got to pull the drum off just to measure the shoe, and then I've got to do the same thing with one of the rears. Alright, pretty standard drum brake setup. Got a self-adjuster down here, which is not always standard. Not every car has these. This basically adjusts the brakes out, pushes out at the bottom so that it can take up the distance for when the brakes wear down, so that they can keep the drums, the shoes in contact with the drums. Got our wheel cylinder up here, just some return springs, a spring for our self-adjuster, and some hold down springs. So let's get this apart. We're going to end up doing a wheel cylinder on this also, and a brake hose, front and rear. Excuse me, just in the front, and then we're going to do shoes in the back. So let's get this apart. Little tip, I like to do these with the long dikes. One, so I have a place to put my hand and push, but two, because the dikes actually kind of grip the spring a little bit better, so I can grip it down. I know it's not going to slip on the spring like pliers would. I know there's a tool for this. This is how I like doing it. And then I can pull here. Nice and easy. And when I take these springs off, I'm going to put them down on the floor on the side that they came off of. So this spring came off of the right side. I'm going to put it back on the right side so I remember where it goes. And there you have it. That's off. Now I'm just going to fold it together like this. The adjuster just fell out. I don't know if you saw it. I'm going to put this down in front of me like that. Now we can get this out. So these hoses on these older cars are kind of a pain to get to, just because of where they are. Back here, they're kind of tough to get a wrench on with the spindle, the knuckle in the way. So I'm actually pulling it. I'm going to pull it away from the backing plate like I did, and now I can get a wrench in there. I got to hold this, but at least I can get a wrench in there. Also, make sure you keep these things. And I'm glad that we're replacing this, because it's leaking. It's all wet in there. So is the other side. And as you can see, it's leaking all over the floor. It's actually my lucky day. totally forgot. We're actually replacing these brake hoses entirely, so I'm actually going to take it off back here. Where it mounts on the frame. Got my new wheel cylinder, new brake hose. I'm actually going to throw this together off the car so I can tighten it up, and then I'll install it, throw the hose in the back, and I'll be good. Don't forget crush washers. You have a severe leak and you'll have to take everything apart if you don't do it like this with a crush washer. I'm just going to spin this on here. I'll tighten it up off the car and then we'll install it. Alright, now we're just doing the reverse order. Pretty easy stuff. Put these things in that I mentioned earlier that are pretty important. Like I said, same thing in reverse. I already set the self-adjuster up by opening and closing the shoes here. Now you just got to set it on here, fight with it. Now I got to put our hold down springs on. That's one. We'll get the other one on. Return springs. But first, this bat wing looking thing, you got to put that on because that actually holds the shoes from coming forward. You don't have to do that part. I like doing it just to see if everything will stay together. But anyway, yeah, that's one set of drum brakes finished. I've got to go back and bleed some fluid through these lines, reassemble the drum, and that'll be one. And we've got to only do that. Well, we did one, so that we have to do it 3 more times. All right, let's do it. Brakes are back on, wheel bearings adjusted. There's no play. Got to adjust these brakes though, because the reason it's spinning like that is because there is no drag of the shoes on the drum. So there's a little slot on the back here. All right, I found this drop light. We're onto the rears here. Got the fronts, got the other side. Let's get started on these back ones. Alright, I got one of the rear drums off. Similar system, there's a little more extra stuff. This cable goes down to the parking brake because we're on the rear, so there's the parking brake cables we got to worry about. The adjuster's a little bit different down here. Alright, I'm planning on doing wheel cylinders back here. I'm going to let the nut that's on the tube nut that's on the back of the wheel cylinder, I'm going to let that decide if it wants to come out or not, and if it doesn't, then we won't be doing wheel cylinders. We'll just do shoes, throw this thing together. Let me soak that down and we'll see if we can get it off. Alright, let's see. The whole thing's turning. Alright, we're in business. It's not getting caught or anything. All right, good. I'm gonna do some wheel cylinders then. All right, same deal. I'm gonna take this apart and I'm gonna lay things out on the floor, basically sort of in the orientation that they came out, and then I'm gonna put it back together in reverse order. Let's take the spring off, some return springs. Here's your parking brake cable. This hooks around the self-adjuster bracket on the bottom here, so that's a good thing to remember to put back in. I don't know what everybody calls these. I call them spreader bars. But it's this little bar that goes in between both the shoes with a spring on it. And this has a specific way it goes in. One way is basically like this, where the bend actually comes outwards and the spring goes on the right. If you mess this up and you put it, like, say, backwards, it's not going to work. Or even this way, it's not going to work. Save these things. Alright, here's a major difference between the back and the front. This is the rear shoe on the rear. It goes like this, over here. On the back of it, you have the parking brake lever. And this has to go back on the new shoes. So the way I like to do it is I take the whole thing off. With a pair of dikes, I take this spring off of the bottom of this here, and then you have to take this horseshoe off this brake shoe, and this bracket gets transferred over to the other shoes, the new shoes. So can be a pain, and hopefully I have new horseshoes or horseshoe clips, because these are a pain. Alright, got it off after a 20-minute fight. Guys, when you put these on, make sure you put them on the long shoe. There's a long and a short shoe. I'm not an engineer, so I have no idea why it's like that, but there's a leading and trailing shoe on these brake shoe systems. I don't know if it's always the back, but in this case the back one is the larger, meaning the friction surface is longer, and that's where this bracket goes. So don't put it on the wrong one, because then you'll be fighting with that to take it off the wrong one. Alright, new wheel cylinder going in. Alright, all done. Got everything on, new shoes, new wheel cylinders on. I got the line off and tight. So we just got one more side, and then we gotta fix the steering in this, and then we're in business. I'm gonna take this opportunity, since I'm adjusting the brakes, to show you how the adjuster works. So when you step on the brakes and they get spread apart, basically this self-adjuster works like this. See how it's turning the wheel? Now it doesn't do it every time, it's not a perfect system, but over time it does turn that wheel and push these brakes out. So that's how that works. Just thought you guys might want to know. Alright, the brakes are all finished. They just have to be bled, which I'm going to need a partner for. It's a partner activity. So So we're going to work on the steering now. Let me show you what we're working on. It's going to be one of those things where I'm going to show you what we're working on, and then I'm going to have to pull it out, and then we'll show you, once I got it out, what it looks like. Just because it's kind of cramped in here, and the part itself is pretty confusing looking. All right, so Ford has these weird power steering things. They look like octopuses. I'm just going to knock every wrench I have on the floor. These things look like octopuses. They have like a whole bunch of lines coming out of them. So we're replacing this and all the hydraulic lines. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try turning the wheel all the way to the left and seeing if this, I don't know if that's going to work. I don't know if this is going to move or not, but we got to take all the lines off of this, pop this out, and I'll show you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, mostly gentlemen, let's address the octopus in the room, or the one that's outside. Anyway. This thing was a mess. This is the octopus thing I'm talking about. So this is our power steering control valve. Fords have a really weird system, but this is how they work. Obviously you can see the new versus the old. And the way that this works is that we have our power steering pump that's up on the engine, and it gets fed pressurized power steering fluid into this port. And then that pressurized power steering fluid gets sent to one of these ports right here. That goes to a ram. On one side of the ram, it applies fluid to one side, it'll move it this way. If it applies it to the other side of the ram, it'll push it this way. I'm not going to pretend that I know that this is left and this is right, or this is right and this is left. I have no idea. But one or the other. So pressure in here, left and right, whatever they are, and a return. That one was leaking. Couldn't get the return off because somebody monkeyed it on there. So now I'm going to go ahead and put the new one in, which has this new little boot on here, which this doesn't have. I got to swap over this clamp. One thing that's important to measure to do when you measure this, or when you take this out or replace it, measure the distance between here and where the next suspension point is, because you need that for your alignment. So ours came out to be about 5 inches, so we're going to be in the ballpark with that. So that's what we're going to do. Throw this in, and then we'll get going. All right, guys, long day. You can see it's nighttime out here. If you remember, I started during the daytime. Anyway, the car has front, new wheel cylinders in the front, brake hoses in the front, shoes in the front, wheel cylinders in the rear, shoes in the rear. And then I replaced that octopus looking thing on the power steering, which ended up being a bear. I know there's not a lot of content in there about the power steering thing. That I just kind of got frustrated and got going, trying to keep this rated G. But it does have power steering, and oh man, with one finger, it's great. And the car does stop. I pulled it out. I am going to take it for a test drive. I don't know how much of it you're going to be able to see because it's dark out, but I'll take you along. So let's go. All right, we're at a gas station. This thing drives really well. The brakes stop really well, even for manual brakes. Power steering is one finger. It does make a little bit of noise, but I think once it bleeds out all the air, that it'll be good. It's very dark in the car. I want to try to get you guys while I'm driving, but it's really dark in the car, so I'm gonna see if I can figure that out. All right, let's go. This thing runs really well too, actually. Starts right up. It's really smooth. Idle's nice and quiet. Not really my thing, the idling quiet thing, but I know some people enjoy it. Oh, almost missed my turn. But look how well this thing stops. Almost missed the turn, slammed on the brakes. Alright guys, well, we're back at my uncle's garage. Car ran awesome. Ran awesome, stopped awesome, steered awesome. left the headlights on. But I'm really proud of this car actually. And I was really happy to do this actually for my uncle. My uncle's a really hardworking guy, and he's been just really good to my family, my wife, my kids. He's just been a really good uncle. So I'm happy to pay this forward and do this for him. It was a long day of work, but like I said, it's for a good cause. So now we can enjoy the car, and just wanted to take a minute to thank you guys all for watching my videos. Anybody that's already subscribed, thank you. If you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing to the channel. Do projects like this. You can watch me break my back for a whole day. Throw a like down there. Leave a comment. Let me know what you would have done different. Let me know what kind of projects you guys want me to do. Is there something you want me to do? I mean, I don't own every car on the planet, but I sure like spending money. So thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Later.